The story of Rudolf Fentz, a man who seemingly appeared out of time, is one of the most fascinating and perplexing tales in the realm of paranormal and time-related mysteries. It begins in the bustling streets of New York City in the 1950s. On a warm summer evening, a man was seen walking down the street, wearing old-fashioned clothing that stood out like a sore thumb in the modern mid-20th century cityscape. His attire was not only unusual, but also seemingly out of place for that time period. He was dressed in a top hat, a well-tailored coat, and carrying a cane, garb that seemed to belong to the 19th century. He looked bewildered and lost in the fast-paced world around him. As the man walked along the street, his presence caught the attention of several passers-by. But it wasn't long before he made a tragic misstep, stepping directly into the path of an oncoming vehicle. The driver, unable to avoid the collision, struck the man, and he was killed almost instantly. The events seemed tragic, but not out of the ordinary. However, the aftermath of the accident would prove far stranger than anyone could have anticipated. When police arrived on the scene, they began their usual investigation into the fatal accident. What they found, however, raised questions that had no immediate answers. The man, who was later identified as Rudolf Fentz, had no identification on him, but as investigators combed through his belongings, they found several items that seemed to belong to an era far earlier than the 1950s. His clothing, for instance, was clearly from the 19th century. In fact, it looked as though he had stepped out of another time altogether. But it was the documents he carried that truly shocked the authorities. Among the man's possessions was a wallet containing items that appeared to be from the 1870s. These included a business card with a New York address, a letter written in cursive with an old-fashioned stamp, and a receipt for a purchase that seemed to date back to the late 1800s. The most baffling detail was the fact that the address on the business card corresponded to a place that had not existed for decades. In fact, all the documents pointed to a man who appeared to have come from a time that was not his own. At first, many assumed that the whole situation might have been a strange hoax or a misunderstanding. But the more investigators dug into the details of the case, the more it seemed like there was something much more bizarre going on. Despite the seemingly convincing evidence that Fentz was from the 1800s, there was no logical explanation for how he had appeared in the 1950s, let alone why he was dressed in clothes from a time that was almost a century in the past. There were no clear records of a man named Rudolf Fentz existing in the 19th century. However, a few key pieces of evidence suggested that he might indeed be someone who had vanished from history and then reappeared in the modern world under the most unusual circumstances. One of the key questions that arose from the investigation was, could this man have somehow traveled through time? How could he have ended up in a time period where everything seemed so foreign to him? The questions surrounding Fentz's strange appearance in the 1950s led to a flood of speculation, and many theories began to emerge. Some suggested that the man had somehow experienced a time slip, or was the result of an anomalous temporal event. Others speculated that he had somehow been sent forward in time, though this seemed to defy the known laws of physics. Still, others proposed more supernatural theories, claiming that Fentz was the victim of some kind of paranormal occurrence, one that allowed him to cross the boundaries of time itself. However, some skeptics believed that there was a far simpler explanation, that Fentz had somehow been a victim of mistaken identity, or that the entire story was fabricated. The idea that a man could travel through time seemed far-fetched to many, and it was easier for some to dismiss the story as just another urban legend. Nonetheless, the bizarre circumstances surrounding his death, combined with the strange objects he carried, made it difficult for anyone to completely disregard the possibility that something extraordinary had occurred. Despite the confusion, Rudolph Fentz's death and his puzzling appearance in the 1950s have left an indelible mark on the world of time travel lore. The incident has been discussed in countless books, articles, and television shows, and it remains one of the most enduring and captivating mysteries in the realm of time-related phenomena. But while the theories and speculations surrounding his death continue to thrive, the true answers remain elusive. Was Rudolph Fentz truly a man out of time? Or was there a more logical explanation for his strange appearance and tragic fate? In the end, the mystery of Rudolph Fentz raises profound questions about the nature of time, reality, and the limits of human understanding. Could it be possible that there are cracks in the fabric of time, allowing people to slip between different eras? Or is the answer more grounded in human psychology, memory, and perception? Until further evidence comes to light, the story of Rudolph Fentz will continue to haunt us, reminding us that there are still many mysteries waiting to be uncovered in the space between the known and the unknown. As the mystery surrounding Rudolph Fentz's sudden and inexplicable appearance in the 1950s grew, so too did the number of theories attempting to explain what had happened. From time travel to supernatural phenomena, and even elaborate hoaxes, the possibilities seemed endless. Yet, none of the theories could offer a definitive answer, leaving Fentz's case as one of the most debated mysteries in history. Let's explore some of the most popular theories that have emerged to explain this enigmatic event. The most obvious theory that gained traction among those fascinated by Rudolph Fentz's strange story was time travel. Time travel is a concept that has long captured the imagination of scientists, philosophers, and storytellers alike. According to this theory, Fentz could have somehow crossed the boundaries of time, either through a scientific experiment gone awry or a natural anomaly. Some proponents of this theory suggest that Fentz was a victim of a freak accident, perhaps caused by an unexplainable event in the space-time continuum. One possible explanation for Fentz's apparent time travel is that he accidentally triggered a temporal shift while in the past, which resulted in his sudden arrival in the future. This is a concept often explored in science fiction, where characters are transported to different time periods as a result of experiments gone wrong or inexplicable natural phenomena. In Fentz's case, his clothing and the old-fashioned documents he carried would be seen as evidence of his true origin in the 19th century. Some who support the time travel theory also point to the possibility of a time loop, where Fentz could have entered a loop of time that caused him to reappear in the 1950s after being lost in the past. This theory draws on the idea that time is not a linear progression, but rather a series of interconnected loops that people can, under certain circumstances, slip between. While there is no concrete scientific evidence to support this, the idea remains a tantalizing possibility for those who seek to explain Fentz's strange disappearance and reappearance. Another popular theory that has emerged from this mystery is the time slip theory. This theory suggests that Fentz's appearance in the 1950s could have been a result of what is known as a time slip, a phenomenon where a person temporarily experiences a shift in time and momentarily finds themselves in a different era. Time slips are often reported in various forms of paranormal lore, with many people claiming to have inexplicably found themselves in the past or future, only to return to their present timeline with no memory of how they got there. According to proponents of the time slip theory, Fentz's apparent appearance from the 19th century might have been caused by some kind of time anomaly that allowed him to slip into the 1950s. These time slips are often linked to areas of historical significance, such as old buildings, ancient ruins, or sites of past trauma, where the fabric of time is thought to be more fragile. In Fentz's case, the fact that he appeared in New York City, a bustling metropolis with a rich history, could have made him more susceptible to such a phenomenon. The time slip theory is also intriguing because it offers a potential explanation for why Fence appeared so confused and disoriented in the modern world. If he had indeed slipped from the 19th century into the 1950s, it's understandable that he would have been overwhelmed by the technological advancements and societal changes he encountered. The sight of cars, airplanes, and skyscrapers would have been completely foreign to someone from the 1800s, and his bewildered behavior could be attributed to his shock at being thrust into an unfamiliar future. Another possibility that has emerged in the wake of Rudolph Fentz's case is the idea of parallel universes. According to the theory of parallel universes, there are multiple coexisting realities, each with its own version of time and events. In this framework, it's possible that Fentz originated from a parallel universe where time flowed differently, and his appearance in our reality was the result of a rare and unexplained crossing between these parallel worlds. Supporters of this theory argue that the peculiar nature of Fentz's clothing and belongings could be evidence that he came from a reality that was almost identical to our own, but subtly different in key aspects. The fact that Fentz had no identification on him could be seen as another indicator that he did not belong to our universe, but was simply an anomaly from a different world altogether. In this scenario, the tragic accident that claimed Fentz's life would be the result of him accidentally entering our timeline, only to be lost in the process. The parallel universe theory also offers an interesting perspective on the strange objects Fentz carried with him. In this theory, his old-fashioned wallet, business cards, and letter could be seen as artifacts from another version of the 19th century, one where things developed in a slightly different manner. This could explain why these items seem to come from a time period that never quite matched up with our own historical records. While the more fantastical theories of time travel and parallel universes capture the imagination of many, there are also those who argue that the entire Rudolph Fentz story could be the result of a hoax or an elaborate misunderstanding. According to skeptics, Fentz's appearance in the 1950s may not have been a supernatural or time-related event at all, but rather the result of a mistaken identity or a deliberate fabrication. Some have suggested that the clothing and documents found on Fentz were part of a carefully constructed ruse. Fentz might have been a victim of a bizarre prank or even a participant in a hoax, designed to confuse and amaze those who encountered him. It's possible that he was an actor or a person trying to make a statement, who deliberately donned old-fashioned clothing and carried anachronistic items in order to create a sense of mystery around himself. Others believe that Fentz's tragic death was simply the result of a strange coincidence. Perhaps he was a man from the 1950s who, by sheer chance, happened to be wearing clothing that resembled 19th century fashion. The items in his wallet, while unusual, could have been picked up as part of a collection or purchased from antique stores. In this case, the story of Fentz's apparent time travel could be nothing more than a misunderstanding fueled by the unusual nature of his clothing and belongings. As the decades have passed since Rudolph Fentz's mysterious appearance in the 1950s, his story has continued to captivate the public imagination, spawning books, films, and documentaries that explore the possibilities behind his strange and unexplained case. Fentz's story remains a fascinating example of a mystery that seems to defy rational explanation, leaving people to ponder questions about time, the nature of reality, and the unexplained phenomena that might exist just beyond our understanding. But what has been the lasting impact of this strange incident? And why does the story continue to intrigue so many people? One of the most significant impacts of the Rudolph Fentz story is its lasting presence in popular culture. His case has inspired numerous works of fiction, ranging from science fiction novels to films and television shows, all of which explore the concept of time travel, parallel universes, and the unknown. The allure of Fence's mysterious circumstances fits perfectly within the broader cultural fascination with time travel, which has been a central theme in many works of science fiction. Fence's story is particularly compelling because it offers an intriguing narrative of an ordinary man caught up in an extraordinary event. Time travel and alternate realities are often depicted in media as thrilling adventures, but Fence's case is different. His experience is tragic, bewildering, and haunting. It touches on the human fear of being out of place or time, and the possibility that the world as we know it might be just one version of reality among many. Films such as The Time Traveler's Wife and Back to the Future, as well as television series like Doctor Who, all resonate with the same themes that Fence's story embodies: the potential for time to bend and twist in ways we cannot predict. In fact, Fence's story has become something of a modern myth, often recounted in ghost stories, conspiracy theories, and discussions of the paranormal. The case of a man mysteriously appearing from the past, only to vanish without a trace, continues to intrigue anyone who encounters it. The mystery behind Fence's death and the peculiar artifacts he carried has become a symbol of unexplained occurrences, tapping into the universal fear of the unknown. Despite the passage of time, there are still those who continue to search for concrete answers to the mystery of Rudolph Fence. Researchers, amateur detectives, and paranormal enthusiasts have attempted to find clues that might explain the strange incident, yet no one has been able to offer a definitive answer. Some have scoured old records and newspapers from the 1950s, hoping to find more information about Fence's background or any reports related to his sudden appearance. Unfortunately, the trail ends at the moment he was struck by the car, and no further evidence has surfaced to shed light on the events. There are those who still believe in the possibility that the truth behind Fence's case could eventually be uncovered. Perhaps, they suggest, the mysterious documents found with Fence could hold a clue that would explain his origin. For example, Fence's strange business cards and the out-of-place letter could be examined more closely for any hidden meanings or connections that might explain his sudden appearance in the 1950s. The name Rudolph Fence itself has become a symbol of mystery, leading some to speculate that the name could be an alias or code that has yet to be deciphered. Other researchers have focused on the theory of time travel, hoping to uncover more scientific evidence that could prove the existence of temporal anomalies. While the concept of time travel remains purely theoretical, some scientists have suggested that, under the right circumstances, it might be possible for a person to travel through time. These scientists believe that further exploration into the nature of time, space, and the fundamental laws of physics could one day provide the answers to Fence's case. Despite the theories and research, there remain numerous unanswered questions about Rudolph Fence's appearance and disappearance. Why was he wearing clothing from the 19th century? How did he manage to make his way to New York City? And why did he appear out of place in such a foreign time? The fact that no one can explain Fence's story in a clear and logical way has only deepened the mystery, making it one of the most puzzling events in modern history. Moreover, the very nature of Fence's death raises even more questions. Was his death truly a tragic accident, or was it part of something larger and more inexplicable? Why did he appear to be so disoriented and confused when he arrived in the 1950s? And why did he have such strange documents on him? The lack of definitive answers has led many to speculate that there is more to Fence's case than meets the eye, and the mystery surrounding his life and death may remain unsolved for generations to come. Ultimately, the story of Rudolph Fence remains an enduring mystery, a captivating tale that continues to spark debate, fuel imaginations, and challenge our understanding of the world around us. Whether it is the result of time travel, a time slip, or simply an inexplicable coincidence, Fent's story speaks to our deepest fears and fascinations with the unknown. The idea that time itself may not be as fixed and predictable as we think is both exhilarating and terrifying. And, perhaps most compelling of all, the mystery of Rudolf Fentz endures because it taps into a universal human longing, the desire to understand the mysteries of the universe, and the hope that one day we might unlock the secrets of time itself. What do you think happened to Rudolf Fentz? Was he a time traveler, or was there another explanation behind his strange disappearance and reappearance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mind-bending mysteries that defy explanation.